Good evening, welcome. I have just heard from a couple of the school board candidates. This is their fourth one of these events this week, so a endurance test for sure for all of those who decide to run for an office, especially a local office like city council or school board here in this community. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to welcome you, and the League is pleased to work with the Columbia Public Library for this forum for tonight. And also it's a Zoom forum, so those of you who are watching remotely, thank you for doing that. Thanks to Lauren Williams with Columbia Public Library, and thanks to KOPN for airing this forum on their radio station tonight. At this forum, you're going to hear from candidates in the contested races for Columbia School Board and the Columbia City Council, Ward number 5. After the formal forum ends, we're going to have a conversation with the candidate who is unopposed for Ward 1, Valerie Carroll. We request that you help us out tonight, especially those who are listening and participating remotely through Zoom, by not causing any great uproar here. But I look at this crowd and I don't think it's going to be a rowdy crowd tonight. But if you are, we will attend to you. Got a judge here who can file immediate court decisions against you. Let's see, the league has timers. We're going to hold up a sign right here, so that'll be a clue for those who are doing the panel answers tonight. And let's see what else. First part of the forum is going to feature the candidates for the Columbia School Board. The school board has 7 members. The Missouri School Board Association provides the following information on candidate qualifications and the role of a school board. The Board of Education is a volunteer representative body elected by the registered voters of the local public school district. Candidates must be a U.S. citizen, resident taxpayer of the district, a resident of Missouri for at least 1 year, and at least 24 years old, must be current on state and local taxes, and not be registered or required to register as a sex offender. The school board governs the school district and provides leadership and advocacy for public education. School boards are charged with making decisions in the best interest of the entire district. Specifically, the board, 1, establishes the goal and vision of the district with input from the community and evaluates the results. 2, develops and approves rules to help schools operate for student success. 3, the only person hired and evaluated by the Board of Education is the superintendent. And 4, approves the budget proposed by the superintendent and ensures funding supports district goals. And 5, shares district information with local legislators and the community to secure resources necessary for student success. I need to say that as you came into the library room tonight, there are note cards or index cards on the seat. If you have a question, we'd ask that you would write your question on that card, catch the attention of any of the League of Women Voters members who are here, and they will bring it up to the front and we will do it. If you're following along through Zoom tonight, you can use the chat section and be able to submit a question that way. The school board candidates will have a 2-minute opening statement period. Then 3 Columbia High School students, actually 2, we've got 3 questions, but 2 of the students are here. They're going to ask a question for all of the candidates to answer. Next, we'll have audience questions and a couple of league questions. Candidates will have 1 minute each to answer those questions. 1 minute closing statements will conclude this portion of the forum. And so again, if you have questions, be sure that you get those. We'll wrap up this portion of the forum about 10 till 7. So just keep an eye on that. If we go the full length, that'll be then. There are 4 candidates for 3 open seats on the Board of Education of the Columbia School District this time. So you'll have an opportunity when you vote to vote for up to 3. The school board candidates are April Farrell, who's closest to me, then John Lyman, then Kerry Hussein, and then Paul Harper. Candidates are to present their opening 2-minute statements in the order that they appear on the ballot. So April Farrell, you're first. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you for, is it on? Thank you for having us. My name is April Farrell. I currently serve on the board. I've been on the board for 3 years, so this is my first term. I'm hoping to serve a second term. My family and I moved here in 2000, and I spent about 15 years prior to joining the board being heavily involved in our schools. My husband's been deployed since 2015, and that has afforded me the luxury to be able to serve our community, and felt that that was my civic duty. When my youngest graduated in 2023, it was the natural transition for me to serve the greater Columbia community through service on the school board. I'm currently the chair of the Long Range Planning Committee and have served on the policy committee for the last 3 years, where I've made it a priority to address all of our policies because it is the roadmap in which the district operates. And that is how we govern. And in the 3 years I've served on that committee, nearly 3 years, we've addressed 225 policies. And I'm hoping to be able to continue so that I can finish up the last roughly 100 policies and get a plan in place to review those on a regular basis. So I would hope for your vote in April.
Thank you. And it's kind of a nice tie over there, April and April.
Yes.
Yeah.
John Lyman, I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And your opening statement, please.
Yeah, thank you for having me, us. These are always, fun events to do. Yes, been to several, this week. But it's always good because the questions are always different, although they're the same a lot. We moved here in '86 when my dad got a job at the university. I went to Grant for first grade, then we moved and went to Russell, then West Junior High School. Carrie and I both like to make sure that everybody knows that we went to West when it was a junior high. Then I went to Rockridge High School. Mizzou was the only school that I considered going to. Graduated with a degree in geography and history. Was going to go to grad school at Oregon State. Met a girl and stayed in Columbia. Married her. She's a teacher in the school district. Has been for 20 years. She has taught in a handful of different elementary schools across the district. We've got 3 kids. She's also the cheer coach at Hickman, I should say that. And stunts. That's the new sport. She's probably at practice right now. We've got 3 kids, a 6th grader, a freshman, and then a senior, which is wild to me. She actually signed her letter of intent last night to cheer at Lindenwood, which we're very excited about. She wants to follow mom's footsteps and be an elementary school teacher when she graduates. Elected to the board in April 2023, served on the finance committee and the long range planning and facilities committee. Last year as the board vice president, this year I'm the board president. I've jokingly said that just means that I run the meetings, but there's a lot more involved in it, than that. Setting the agendas and making sure that everybody kind of knows where to go and what to do, et cetera. We've done a tremendous amount in the last 3 years. I'm really excited for the next, 3 to 5 years between the continuous school improvement plan and all the other things that we've got going on. A lot of really exciting things happening, good times, in the district, and hope to continue to be a part of it.
All right. Thank you. Carrie Hussein, welcome. We're glad you're here. And your opening 2 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and us. As John said, we've gotten to know each other very well over the last couple months, and I personally love these forums. I am a native Colombian. I was born and raised here, born at University Hospital. I'm a proud product of Columbia Public Schools, having gone here K through 12 at Fairview Elementary, West Junior High School. And I'm a 1991 graduate of Hickman High School. My family has been in Columbia since 1958. That was the year that Don Furrow brought my legendary Hall of Fame football coach grandfather to Columbia to coach the Tigers. His name was Dan Devine. And my mom is his oldest daughter, Jennifer. And so the 7 Devine kids all went to Columbia Public Schools. All in all, I've had 17 members of my family go through Columbia Public Schools. I have, including myself and my brother. I have one of my 3 children who are in CPS here. Danny, if you want to ask a question later, please do. He's a freshman at Rockbridge, and I have twins that are at Mill Creek, twin daughters. I currently sit on the Mill Creek PTA board, and I also am on the board of the newly reestablished Columbia Council PTA for the entire city. It kind of went by the wayside during COVID, like a lot of things, but now we're back. So we are now trying to integrate the entire city's PTA to kind of get an idea of what's going on. I'm an educator by trade. I'm a trauma surgeon. I went to Notre Dame, then Wayne State University School of Medicine, and then I was at WashU on their faculty for decades with education as my passion. I was the program director for both the general surgery residency and the critical care fellowship. And I'm serendipitously back here in Columbia in my home, and I want to give back to my community the best I can. And school board seems to be the best fit for me, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Paul Harper, welcome. Glad you're here. And now your 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Paul Harper. I'm also running for the board. I am the father of 2 daughters. My youngest graduated from Rockbridge since I've been on the board. That was exciting. I got to hand her diploma. My background is in education. I actually have a master's of special education, and I did my student teaching at Rockbridge High School. I then taught in Jefferson City Public Schools in special education in one of the middle schools. After that, I went to law school. And since then, I've been working for the state in a variety of capacities for about 25 years. I've worked as a litigator for the Attorney General's office. I've worked in the Department of Revenue. I was the general counsel for Missouri State Auditor Nicole Galloway for her entire time. During that time, we audited local governments, including school districts. And then I currently actually am an attorney for the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, primarily doing HR work and Office of Childhood, which is pre-K and under. Since I've been on the board for the last 3 years. Since I've been on the board, I've been the policy chair. As April said, we have undertaken a comprehensive review of all of our policies. We have reviewed more than 200 policies. We have approximately 300 policies, and we have modernized them. Some of them were over 30 years old and hadn't been touched. So we've modernized them. I'm also the board vice president, and I look forward to the remainder of this forum.
Thank you very much also. Now, we'll start with our questions, and this has been, since it began a few years ago, the most popular part of our forum. So I feel very threatened by what's about to happen. That's okay. You know what? You age out eventually, and so I'm happy to age out if one of these two young women would like to take my spot. We have 2 students from local high schools, one from Rockbridge, one from Hickman, and they have come up with questions that they're going to pose to and have each of the board candidates answer. And we'll see how it goes. Grace Harris is from Hickman. Come up. I will say that you need to speak really loudly. Pretend you're yelling at somebody, and you'll be able to be heard back there. And April Farrell is going to be the first one to answer your question.
Okay. Hi, I'm Grace Harris. I'm a senior at Hickman High School. And my question is, as CPS moves into the future by expanding and building new schools, how can we ensure that our existing buildings maintain quality and standards that are up to par with new construction and create safe learning environments? As an example, several older buildings have bathrooms that are frequently closed due to disrepair and ongoing maintenance issues that have not been addressed.
Excellent question. I love this question. As chair of the Long Range Planning Committee, I get to approve capital improvement projects. And I know specific examples of which you speak, and there have been approvals for additional funding for that item. But we are embarking on a 10-year master facilities and bond plan that is starting with a facility audit that's currently happening right now, which will tell us what's the life left on things, what things need to be fixed, what kind of replacement plan there needs to be, because we have lacked a replacement plan. And then we'll be going to the community to get input on what their priorities are for that. But that is, we would also love any input or emails you have on facilities, because we have to maintain our buildings.
John? And you're the perfect person. to get that one. That's really good. Here's one. Like I said, my degree's in geography, and I really like the physical geography aspect of stuff, but a lot of my research and stuff that I did was on the human geography aspect, specifically how people look at, view, and interact with their environment. And so since our students are in our buildings for 6-7 hours a day, that environment around them is really, really important. And so making sure that it's safe, it's sound, it's secure is really important. Like I said, I've got kids in schools. I've been in a handful of them here and there, and there's absolutely spots that we've got to work on. And we recognize those, and we're going to continue to identify those areas and figure out how to pay for it. And that's the troublesome part, is how we're going to pay for it. But we're looking at all of the places where we can save money to make sure that we're routing money in those spots so that those educational environments are exactly what our kids deserve, whether the building is 100 years old like Hickman or is brand new like Eagle Bluffs on the south side of town.
Great.
Thank you. Great question. And I chuckled during part of it because I mentioned in two different forums that we've had that meme going around about the urinal in one of the Hickman bathrooms that's like shattered and has the tape across it. So
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
She does.
And you know, just as John said, my beloved Hickman High School, the Walton brothers went to Hickman High School, right? And we all know how they succeeded in life. And now we have, he mentioned Eagle Bluff is right down the street from me and right down the street from where my kids are going to school. So I think, and April said it best, we've got long range planning. The budget is important. I think that one thing that we've all talked about is our commitment to maintaining funds for the kids and the teachers. So whether or not what we do with the budget, if there's funds being drawn away, we're gonna make sure that the kids have a safe environment to learn and a healthy environment to learn. And it's a difficult situation. Paul.
Well, going last and April going first, this makes this actually easy. So yes, we have a long range planning process that we've actually already started to address a lot of these things. One of the aspects of it that I'd like to talk about is the fact we are a public school district. Therefore, we are eliciting help from our community to determine what you all think is important to the community. What is important for us to fix? What is important not to fix? And how we should move forward. As a part of that strategic planning, we need that help to help our decisions so that we can make better decisions for the school district. And we've been doing that since I've been on the board. We have been eliciting advice as to what people would like to see for our school district, and we're going to continue doing that moving forward.
What do you think, Grace?
I think those are good answers.
I think you had a good question.
My doctor.
I've allocated the money.
Just out of curiosity, because at least two of you said you're accepting feedback and suggestions. Where do people find the best way to reach you all and to let you know, hey, that bathroom's not fixed today?
Right, they can email us. Our email addresses are on the website. Our phone numbers are on the website. I have people reach out to me on Facebook Messenger. I'm sorry, I don't have TikTok or Snapchat. And so there's a variety of ways to reach out to us, and I would really, and our long range planning meetings are also open to the public. We don't do public comment, but you can come to the public meetings and see the types of things that we're talking about, which is a great place to get educated on that. But I always welcome those conversations because we're doing a lot of great work on that planning.
Yeah, and you know, the monthly, is it monthly or quarterly, that newsletter thing that comes out in the mail?
I believe that's quarterly.
I think it is also, and I think they have contact information there also. So it's easy to know how to contact each or every one of those. Miratosh is next. She's from Rockbridge High School. And if you would come up and ask your question, and you'll notice that the students are using electronics to do it, and some of us still do the old fashioned way, paper. Welcome up.
Good evening. My name is Mira Tosh, and I'm a senior at Rockbridge High School, and I'm happy to be here today. So my question is, according to the latest 2025 MSTA member survey, 71% of Missouri teachers have strongly considered resignation, with 44% saying stress was the main reason for wanting to quit, and 41% expressing lack of financial support. This is an increase from 2024. This crisis is causing a ripple effect, impacting both educators and students. Increased burnout rates in educators has led to shortage of highly qualified educators and replacement by underprepared staff, and this is undermining student achievement. As Columbia Public Schools aims to be a competitive employer, what specific changes will you advocate for to retain the quality teachers CPS has, improve teacher well-being, and ensure that all students are learning from fully prepared and high-quality educators?
John will go first. Or remember, you got a whole 60 seconds.
Man, the first thing that we need to do is continue to recognize that problem exists. And I think it's an unfortunate thing. We said, my wife is a teacher. It's a conversation that we have, often, when there's a student who's having one of those high emotion days, just in her building, whether it's in her class or whatever. So making sure, number one, that our teachers know that the school board and our district administration have their back in those times. We also need to make sure that or the procedures that we have, because I'm gonna use word policies, the procedures and things that we have in place, the practices that we have, when we have those students who are having those high emotion days, that we're consistent from one day to the next, from one building to the next one classroom to the next, because when we don't have that consistency, our students aren't really sure what to do, and then our teachers don't know what to do. So just maintaining a consistent presence when it comes to behaviors and disruptions and things like that, I think will go a long way in alleviating a lot of our teacher concerns.
Wonderful question, and I'll just say, stay tuned to my KMIZ interview that I did earlier today, because I got a lot longer than 1 minute to answer, and I did. So basically, I have bragged since the day I left Columbia that I'm the person I am because of Columbia Public Schools and the teachers that I had. I took my kids out of school last year for Patsy Watts' funeral, who was my 5th grade teacher. I think we need to continue to hire the best, and by doing so, we need to not just give competitive salary, top tier salaries where our teachers are underpaid, and benefits. Make it a good and safe place to work, meaning people want to come to work. We deal with burnout in medicine all the time. In fact, I've written on it, on the burnout of surgeons. I actually don't practice full-time surgery anymore, and I'm only 52 years old. Part of that was burnout. And so I think that we need to really address the quality of the life of our teachers. I know that these guys just passed the transfer policy, which.
Yeah, you can finish it, Don.
Well, I think they, meaning the teacher, teachers can sort of have a say in where they go. Equity and transparency, I think, were the 2 main things that they really talked about in that policy, and I know it's available. So
Thank you. Paul.
Well, first, of course, we need to make sure that our pay is competitive. Since the 3 of us have been on the board, we have actively worked to try to increase salaries as much as possible. We will continue doing that while I'm on the board. Also, workplace conditions are very important. Anybody who was paying attention to our work session this morning saw that we've been having a workplace survey done, and we'll continue doing that to find out exactly what the issues are, because of course, in order to make the best decisions, we need to have data, and that tells us both what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. But workplace conditions are important. We need to ensure that we have behavioral supports for our teachers. We need to make sure that we have mentors and training for our teachers, especially our young teachers who don't have a lot of experience. And of course, as Carrie just referred to, we've been working on policies. We've been making sure that our policies are more employee-friendly, student-friendly, and not done because of administrative expediency, but rather customer service for the people who matter most, and that being our students and our teachers.
April.
Yes, I get the benefit of going after everyone this time. So as Paul alluded to, I believe the amount that we've raised teacher salaries since we've been on the board is about 9%. Teachers still aren't paid enough, but so we've been trying to address that. And as he alluded to, the workplace conditions report, and that is actually posted online from our meeting today. If you find our agenda for work session, you can read the workplace conditions report. But I think that's very important because we need feedback from the teachers. That's how we address issues that face them. And from that workplace conditions report, I believe it was 83% that indicated they would continue to work in the district. In addition, it also shined a light on the fact that we need differentiated PD because our younger teachers need certain types of professional development than our veteran teachers. It also addressed areas related to assessment and how maybe we can streamline some things, which could provide more planning time for our teachers, which is something that they frequently need as well. So I think we're working in the right direction.
Thank you. You like that?
Yes.
That's a good question. Bonnie Kumar from Rockbridge High School has written the next question. She's unable to be here tonight, so Mira is going to do that, and we'll start with Carrie on this one.
Yeah, so I know Bonnie really wanted to be here. She is a junior at Rockbridge, and I'll ask her a question. In Columbia, many students, parents, and teachers have raised concerns about the growing presence of nicotine products and vaping in schools. According to National Youth Tobacco data released in 2025, vaping is the most commonly used tobacco product amongst youth. At the same time, Missouri's legislation for cannabis has led to more dispensaries appearing in communities. As a potential school board member, what specific steps would you take within our schools to address nicotine and vaping use, prevent substance misuse, and protect student health and safety?
Excellent question, and guess I'm lucky that the doctor gets to go first. I'm well aware, I have a teenager who just got done with middle school and is now in high school, and so I hear the stories, I understand that this is a problem. As a physician, I also understand that this is a problem. I think the first fact of the matter is, while I don't think corporal punishment or major needs to happen at a younger age, but we have to understand that this is there's legal aspects of this. You know, nicotine and marijuana are both illegal in this state for people of junior high and high school age. I think that we have to have strong policies. There's detection systems that can be looked into, you know, put in the bathrooms. We have to police the community and make sure that they're not selling these products to our kids, understanding that they're maybe getting them from parents or older siblings or that kind of stuff. That's also a problem. But it is definitely a problem in this community that needs to be addressed.
Well, I think this problem, along with a lot of mental health sort of problems, really do involve the community, not just the school district. So I mean, we need to strengthen our connection to our community partners, because it's going to take the whole community in order to fix this. We need to make sure we're working with the county, with the city, with our not-for-profits, and with our community agencies. We need to make sure that we have the right wraparound services. What does that mean? That means we need to make sure that we're referring our students to the right places when they do have some of those problems, because this isn't just a discipline problem. This is a mental health problem. This is something that they need treatment for, and we need to make sure that we're working on those wraparound services to make and getting our students to where they need to get the help they need, even if it's not at the school. We should have community partners that help us with that.
April.
Lots of ideas on this. I don't disagree with Carrie that reviewing and investigating potential detection systems would be useful. We also want to look at the consequences of that. And by that, I mean, what's the logistics of that? If you've got something going off every 5 seconds, how much learning are we getting going on? So what we also need to do is consistently address it. And I have a personal story that when my son was caught vaping, the answer should not have been, we're not going to do that right now. That should have been a referral. And so we need to consistently be addressing those types of things. I don't know what our health curriculum is, but it's very likely we need to ramp that up. 3 in 10 of our, not youth necessarily, but 3 in 10 people today are now developing cannabis use disorder because of the growing potency of that. And so that might be something that students need to be more educated on that as well.
And John.
I mean, everybody's hit on all of the things. We need consistent enforcement. I've heard similar stories of, you know, administrators stepping into bathrooms, kids are in there and they're, you know, hand it over, or you're going to the office and they hand it over and then they go back to class. We need a little bit better enforcement, you know, on some of those things. We also need to continue to, like Mr. Harper said, ask our community for help. You know, if you see a kid out, I've said this about attendance, if it's Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday at 11 o'clock and you see a kid, you know, wandering around the mall, maybe ask him why he's in the mall. If you see a kid standing on the street corner with a vape, you know, I mean, it doesn't look like he should have that. Maybe say something about that. But we need, you know, the community support, you know, to do that. We need to continue to educate our kids. I don't know if we still bring the lungs in and fill them up with air, show the kids. My father-in-law was a doctor, and he would do that, where he would bring the lung in, and this is what smoking does to you. I mean, we just continue to educate, continue to, you know, get those community supports, continue to press that enforcement.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And for our high school students, just a question, are you both seniors?
Yeah,
So will you be able to vote in this election?
we will.
Oh, and they are registered.
Women voters appreciate that also. Thank you. Well, again, great questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to think through those and for bringing those to us tonight. I'm going to start now with questions, and Paul Harper will be the first on this as we take turns seeing who's first as we move down the line. And these are a couple of questions from the League of Women Voters, and they're good questions also, and we'll see what the candidates say. If the school district faces a budget shortfall, what areas would you cut first, and what would be considered off limits?
Well, I'm gonna start with what should be off limits. The very last thing that should ever be cut is something that directly impacts our students. So mainline teachers, those behavior supports I was talking about, the things that impact our students. We need to figure out ways that we need to figure out efficiencies. And we also need to, again, solicit input from our community. We're doing that through our strategic planning again. And that's actually part of that process, is to find out what is and is not a priority for our community. But we know that there are contracts, there are duplicate contracts. We need to look at duplicate contracts. We need to focus on what matters most, and that's the students.
All right,
I don't know.
thank you. April Farrell, same question. If the school district faces a budget shortfall, what areas would you cut first, and what would be off limits?
I'm gonna do the reverse order like Paul, because the off limits stuff is the things that directly impact the classroom instruction, which includes our instructional supports, our teachers, our speech therapists, things that directly impact the student learning environment. He's right about the duplicate contracts. We need to look for efficiencies. I know some of that is already kind of starting as far as looking if there's ways to combine positions. Also looking at travel expenses, looking at when we get a contract in front of us, we need to ask, do we have another contract? If this is a renewal, how do we know that it's working? We don't want to keep throwing money at something that we don't have any data to show that we're actually getting a payoff for. And so those are a lot of things that we can be looking at with our finances.
John Lyman, same question to you.
Again, the cuts, you know, if and when they come, they need to be as far away from the classroom and the learning environment as possible. We need to, you know, continue to make sure that we're keeping our class sizes as low as possible. So if we're cutting FTEs to save money and it increases our class sizes, we're moving in the wrong direction. That has been shown to not, you know, help out. One-to-one devices is something that we've kind of toyed, you know, I've said before, every student in the district has an iPad, every student, or a laptop. We could certainly look at that. Now, talking to some of my teacher friends about that, that's a scary proposition, because a lot of those state assessments and other assessments that we do are on iPads and laptops. And so if we all of a sudden don't have that one-to-one, we've got to consider how we do that. So there's a lot of things that come into play there, but anything that we do cut, before we do make that official final call, we've got to talk to the folks that it's going to impact, our teachers, our faculty, our staff, to make sure that, hey, if we do this, what is the impact in your classroom? Because even if it saves a bunch of money, if it impacts you negatively, we may need to pull that back and not make that cut.
And final answer on this particular question: if the school district faces a budget shortfall, what areas would you cut first, and what would be considered off limits? Carrie Hussein.
So I think we've all made this comment and all throughout this campaign, is that we will commit ourselves to not removing money from the classroom, from teachers, from students, from anything that really strongly affects education. I think we've all made that commitment. April had mentioned the other night, and again today, about duplicity. Paul mentioned it as well. I think that you can go through a budget and you can find issues where there is overspending and excess spending, or spending on the same thing one or two different ways. One of the things that I have mentioned a few times in various forums is the movie Dave with Kevin Kline, when the guy has a stroke and the new president comes in because he looks like him, and he brings in his buddy who's a forensic accountant, and he balances the national budget in 2 days, because he just does. I think we can bring in a forensic accounting team and look at the budget and find out what we're spending on and what we could possibly do about that. I think that there are ways in a giant corporation like a public school system where we can save money, but we will not remove money from the educational value of our students.
All right, thank you. We're gonna go to another question again from the league, and April will be first on this one. What do you think is the most pressing issue facing public schools, and how do you propose to address it? April Farrell.
In 1 minute.
Doesn't start until I speak. Probably all the financial uncertainty. We have federal cuts. We have potential state cuts. We have potential changes to income taxes, potential changes to property taxes. Costs are going up in general, for all kinds of services. We need to continue to pay our employees a living wage. And so the way we would address it goes to the first question on where is the most efficient way and place that we can spend money. And also working on, and I'm not involved so much, but I know John and Suzette have been involved pretty heavily in lobbying or working with our legislators at the state to say, hey, this might be a great idea, but here's the impact if you go down this road, and kind of educating on what the consequences are and advocating for the funding that we need to continue the great education we provide.
Again, the question is, what do you think is the most pressing issue facing public schools, and how do you propose to address it? We move to John Lyman.
I mean, funding's the easy answer, so we'll go to the next one.
Oh.
Yes. Well, we know that we've been watching for a fiscal cliff to come. We've seen it now. We had a presentation, earlier this month where is that 3-month fund balance, it's not there in 5 years. And that's the first time it's like in red. And so it's an issue. And so it's a problem. We know it's coming, but we're working on all the things, to try to mitigate that. Another big problem that we have is, came from the second student question about teachers and keeping them. You can't run a school district if you don't have teachers, and you don't have good teachers, and teachers that have been there and been doing the job and are dedicated to that job and to that trade, for long periods of time. So it's recruiting and retaining those teachers. It's getting them trained up and keeping them here, making sure that they have a good educational environment to work in. If we don't have those things, then you don't have a school district. So keeping our public school teachers happy and making sure that they are getting enriched in their passions and in their job, that's a big thing that we need to consider.
And next is Carrie Hussein. What do you think is the most pressing issue facing public schools, and how do you propose to address it?
I think everyone's gonna have a really great answer here, and I'm just gonna go in my direction with one of my mantras, and that is, I strongly believe that education is under attack in this country, from the federal and the state level. And we need to do something about that. We need to teach history the way it happened. We need to support and respect the scientific method. I am a surgeon scientist. The scientific method matters to me, and it needs to matter to everyone. We need to keep funding the arts. We need our kids to be able to be in the theater, sing their songs, be on the athletic fields. And we need them to be able to read books that have been written. So I propose that my commitment is to a robust and strong curriculum and to protect our kids from what is happening in the universe around us.
I love that.
And I also strongly believe, I know I'm up against the time, but equity across the district is a very important thing for me. I think Columbia's diversity is what I was so proud of when I went to an Ivy League level school. For college, I was proud of the diversity. I'm proud of it now, but I think that there is some equity issues that we can deal with as a district and as a board.
And again, the question, what do you think is the most pressing issue facing public schools, and how do you propose to address it? Paul Harper.
I think everybody has actually hit on all the issues. I mean, the chaos that is happening in our society right now with regard to our governments are hurting us all. We had a presentation just earlier this month about the fact that our federal funding is coming down. Look at what's going on in Jefferson City. Our state funding is about to come down. They're dealing with they are changing the tax structure, and that could hit the taxes by as much as 20%. They're impacting property taxes, which is where Columbia gets most of their funding. So whenever we're talking about a fiscal cliff, it's not necessarily because of anything we're doing, but that our funding is going to start going down, and it already has started going down, at least on the federal level. So what does that mean? It means that, one of the most important things we do is retain teachers and pay teachers. That's 70% of our budget. We have to have the funding to continue having the good work, because we all know that without teachers, we have no education.
All right, thank you all. This next question, Dr. Hussein has already started to answer this. We're going to start with John Lyman on it. It's from the audience members, and there are two questions I'm going to put together. One of the question has to do with, there has been discussion as recently as today, if I understand this right, that the legislators would like to determine how schools teach reading and the
voted it in.
relationship. I'm sorry?
They voted it in. I
Both
looked
the
it up
Senate
just
and the
before I
House.
came and I was gonna bring it, but
So
yeah.
they make that decision, and also always talking about banning books. So I guess I'll generalize this question since we are going to be running short on time. Explain your feelings and position about, as a school board member or potential school board member, the intrusion into local school districts doing what they do by state or other government.
I mean, we need to let the professionals be professionals, and
Yeah.
teachers, I think, are the ones who need to be, involved in these conversations about what's being taught. Was asked a question earlier today about, books and libraries and things like that, and I said, well, that's the librarian's job, is to help that student figure out what that child's gonna read. And so there's always gonna be people who don't like the way things are taught or think that there's a better way to teach something, and certainly there are. There's always going to be folks that are out there that don't like particular books or subject matters, taught in schools. That's perfectly okay, but I don't think that that's something that we want to really get too entrenched in, because in order to make a good, well-rounded person that leaves our district, they need to have all those experiences. They need to read all those books and learn all those things. Kids are going to learn different ways. So by saying you have to learn math or have to learn reading a certain way, that might not work for everybody. So teachers have got to have the flexibility to be able to teach the ways that the students sitting across the table from them are going to learn.
Gary Hussein, you've started answering this question. You got 60 more seconds on it.
Wonderful. So like I said, I think that the whole thing about book banning, that is a slippery slope that we do not want to go down. I think Kurt Vonnegut, told us very well, and so did George Orwell. So and I got to read those books in Columbia libraries. No, I think it's it's public education should not be a partisan issue, and it's not. We all, our very first foreman agreed that this was not a partisan issue, but it always strikes me that the party of small government is the party of small government until they want to control something that happens with our kids. And unfortunately, that's what's happening in Jeff City. So I think that we need to keep government out of our schools. John said it best. Let the experts be the experts. I get Dr. Google all the time, and I have to bite my tongue. People come in with their screen and tell me that this is what I need to do when I put them to sleep and cut them open, that I better do this. I don't like it. I listen to it, but I don't like it. So let the experts do what they are best at, and that is educate our kids, because they have our kids' best interest at heart.
Paul Harper, if you don't mind, I won't repeat the question. I think.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just like, I mean, John actually said it is about as pithy as you can. The professionals should be the ones who we listen to, not the politicians. The fact of the matter is that our teachers do know how to teach. Our teachers know what best practice is. We are a local control state. We should keep that control local. What have we been doing? We've been doing an entire overview of our curriculum that includes the reading curriculum. We know how, our teachers know how to teach. Our teachers are doing it based on best practice. As far as the nonsense regarding the libraries, I think we had these issues come up during our last campaign, and I think all of us were very clear that we don't believe in government censorship of ideas. And we shouldn't accept government censorship of ideas, all because somebody in Jefferson City doesn't want an idea to get out into the general public does not mean that we should keep that idea away from everybody.
April Farrell, same issue.
I will talk about the book banning first. No, we don't do that. With that being said, we need to have age appropriate books available for students, and parents always have the ability to express what they might not want their child to be exposed to, or a particular book they want to receive. When I was 12, I spent most of my life in the library. checked out a book in the library and asked my parent if I should have that because it had curse words. My mom's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So, that's, an option for the parent. As far as the reading thing that they've just talked about. Yes, it's the professionals. We have 26% of Gen Z has one immigrant parent. So we have a huge diversity. And even if that wasn't the case, nobody, no two kids learn exactly the same. And our teachers need to have the ability to be flexible in their instruction so they can best meet the needs of that kid.
All right, thank you. Everybody has a crack at that one. Let me give you another question from the audience, and Carrie, you're saying you're going to be first on this. It's proposed to raise the cost of the teacher insurance by 29%. The insurance plan is very limited already. What do you propose doing to offer effective health insurance to CPS teachers?
Again, another doctor question.
Good.
This came up at another forum as well. I feel the pain. I am on the exchange because I'm now self-employed. I spent my entire career at a university where I got to buy into a health program, and it was quite affordable. And now I'm on the exchange, and we all know what happened on January 1st with the subsidies and what happened in Washington. I had to pay, in fact, I'm now off it because I had a side effect from it, but I had to pay $900 for my Jardiance last month. Nobody can afford that. And so I think to answer the question is I think we have to look at various ways that we can insure a big group of people. I think that looking at things on the exchange, lobbying in our state and federal legislatures as far as the need for health. I mean, this is a passion of mine. I can't answer it in a minute. Healthcare has been an issue since the 90s, when the Clinton administration tried to fix it. And the Obama administration has tried. I think it's a problem that it needs to be addressed.
Paul Harper, what do you propose doing to offer effective health insurance to CPS teachers?
Well, ironically, we just had a conversation that lasted about a half hour, 45 minutes this morning on this very topic in our work session. Or was it longer? I don't know. I see.
Longer.
Oh, longer. Okay. It seemed like it went on for a long time, but we're self-insured. We do have costs, and we all know health costs are going up. However, as I said this morning, I feel very strongly we need to not impact our teachers, especially our hourly employees and some of our employees who are our lowest wage employees. Just to be clear, there is not a proposal right now on the table that would require somebody to pay for their own health care. This is about spouses and dependent care, because we have committed to paying for our employees' healthcare. That being said, retirees are also on our healthcare. We need to make sure that we're not increasing costs to retirees by 30% in 1 year. We can't impact our employees by that amount.
And April Farrell, same question to you. What do you propose doing to offer effective health insurance to CPS teachers?
Well, first, I'd encourage everybody to replay the tape from this morning because it was about an hour and a half discussion. The final vote was a 20% instead of a 29.9%. And we're starting those conversations. We had a lot of conversation about different options that we can look at, how to move forward, timing on moving forward, getting input from all of the people that are on the coverage, including our retirees. It is directed at those employees, which is about 539, unfortunately, that also have spouse or dependent coverage. Those are the ones who will see a rate increase. And so we need to look at some different options there. And it might mean that in future years, there are a 1 or 2% increase, doing tiny increases, which lots of companies do. But we need to look at how we don't impact our lowest, certainly our lowest paid employees.
John Lyman, last on this one.
We need to get better at communicating, these sort of changes and things. One of the things that we've done, with just about everything is reaching out to the community and saying, hey, here's what's going on. What do you think? Or which direction should we go? A good board is gonna do that. And so we did that when this change, came out. We reached out to the community and said, all right, teachers, faculty and staff that are gonna be impacted by this, which one of these options should you go with? And, we went with, kind of a middle of the road one, but yeah, the 20% increase isn't the 30 that it was, but 20% is still gonna be, a big hit for a lot of folks. And so we recognize that. So one of the things that we were actually doing, moving forward, because we know that this is probably not gonna be the only increase that's coming. Because we're recognizing that and we're already putting on next year's calendar when we're gonna have those discussions about different potential options and things to make sure that we're not coming up with, hey, the budget's in like 60 days, we gotta have it done. Let's start to have these conversations much, much earlier, to have much more robust conversations with folks that this is gonna impact, so that we don't have these big increases and things in the future.
If I can get in one more question, that way each of our candidates will have had a chance to be the first to answer 2 questions. So Paul Harper, you're on this one. And this is much lighter than what we've been talking about, but I'm just curious. The most recent event I attended that made me feel good about CPS was?
Oh,
Oh,
gosh. Right, I'm trying to think.
good night.
You
I feel that way.
Good meet tonight, but free, no prompting from the audience.
You say you're gonna keep control here.
I know, well, this is a tough crowd.
The event that I'm just gonna say the event that I like most out of all the events that I go to is every year I try to go to the award ceremony for our teachers at the end of the year. I love hearing about their successes and how they are doing. The way that award is presented is that their principal comes up and they present it for their teacher. And I have tried to make sure I go to that presentation every single year because I love hearing how great our teachers are in district.
All right. April Farrell, the most recent event I attended that made me feel good about CPS was?
I think the last recent event I attended was Last QB Standing, and even though my children played sports at Hickman, I had never been. So that was a pretty awesome time to see how all those coaches and supporters came together to support our kids in that endeavor. I look forward to, there's some reading days coming up, and that's always fun because those are in elementary schools. And that is really great to sit down with the kids and work with them on reading days and get their insights.
And John Lyman, the most recent event I attended that made me feel good about CPS was?
Last night at my daughter's signing for, to commit to cheer at Lindenwood University. She was one of 19 or 20 or so, students at Hickman High School that were signing, kind of their formal letters of commitment to go and for athletics in college. The crowd was full. It was families. There were the entire baseball team was there. The entire Hickman track team was there. They took up a quarter of the gym, and then as soon as their guys were done, their guys and gals were done, they went down and they had practice because I think they had their first meet today. So they skipped out on practice to come and watch, some of their teammates do these commitments. But all of the athletes thanked their families. They all thanked their coaches and their teachers for motivating them. And it was just a really cool event to see just the broad spectrum of excellence that we have in athletics, in education, and then just, man, all the places that these kids are going. I'm pulling my phone up and Googling where is this school? I don't know where this is, but they're going everywhere. And it was just really fun.
Carrie Hussein, your final, the most recent event I attended that made me feel good about CPS was?
Well, that's a very big deal. Congrats. So this morning I was, the principal at Cedar Ridge Elementary School reached out to me a few weeks ago and said that they were having Hero Day at their school. And some of the kids didn't have someone that was going to come. They would invite parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, family friends. And would I come and sit in? So I put on my scrubs. I walked into Cedar Ridge. What a gorgeous building. It's the first time I'd been there. I pulled around the corner. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's a community college. I'm thinking of Fairview where, I went to elementary school. It was a wonderful, amazing experience. And I know that this young man enjoyed my company, and we talked about what I did, and his eyes were wide, and I kept it PG. Don't worry about all the trauma stuff that I do. But I will also say that this past fall, when Danny just started his freshman year at Rockbridge, we went to the Hickman and Rockbridge game together. I'm a Hickman grad, he's a Rockbridge grad. I put on a Rockbridge t-shirt. My skin only burned for a few seconds. And then I cheered for Rockbridge. It was at Hickman, sorry. And for the first time in my life, I was a captain of the soccer team at Hickman. But for the first time, I sat on the visitor section at Hickman Stadium, and that was an incredible experience. And that is why I love CPS.
We're gonna go to the closing statements now. And again, it's 60 seconds to wrap up your thoughts tonight, and we'll go reverse order as they will appear. The names will appear on the ballot. So Paul Harper, you're first on this one.
Great, I'm first again. All right, whenever I ran before, I promised to support students, teachers, and to hold the district more accountable. I just want to talk about some accomplishments we've had in the last several years. We've increased salaries for all district employees, not just teachers, but our hourly employees. We have improved compensation for summer school and extra duty days. Before I started, the APR was 70.0. Now the APR, which is the annual performance rating for the schools that DESE puts out, is at 88.7. We've increased accountability. We've ensured that bills now appear on the agenda. We've hired the district's first full-time general counsel. We've established regular listening sessions so that people can provide us input. We appointed a special education task force so that we can hear more from the parents who are actually engaged in that program to know more about what's going on. And we've implemented broadcasting and reporting of all meetings, not just our primary meeting. So thank you for having me. Please vote for Paul Harper.
We're gonna come this way. So Carrie Hussein, you're next.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. I've used the League of Women Voters pamphlets ever since I was 18 years old to get ideas on the candidates. You guys are fair and balanced, and I really appreciate that. You've taught me a lot over my voting life. I'm a Columbia native. I love this town. I'm glad to be home. I didn't expect to be home. Serendipity brought me home, and now I'm here to help my community. I joke at a few of these forums that the best and easiest way to do this is just to add an 8th board member to the whole thing. And I kind of feel like the Aaron Burr up here. I just want to be in the room where it happens. I'm not going to challenge anyone up here to a duel, but I'm not going anywhere. So whether it's this time or another time, I'm committed to helping this community. And I just want to be clear, I'm not running against anyone up here. These guys have worked hard. They've done an incredible job. I'm running because I belong on the school board. And whether it's now, whether it's later, just please keep that in mind, but this community matters to me.
John Lyman, your 60-second closing thought.
Yeah, thank you to the League of Women Voters. The students, they left, I think, but thank you to them. I like it when we bring our students in, for these things. Mr. Lyle for moderating. You did fantastic as usual. I love this work. I love this town. This work is tough. This town is also tough. But no, the work is tough. It's rewarding though. We've gotten to do a lot of really neat things. Mr. Harper outlined all of the great accomplishments that have kind of happened over the last 3 years. One of the things that I ran on 3 years ago was that this is a group project and we've got to move in order to move the district forward. We've got to do it together. Missouri is the show me state. Columbia is a tell you town. If things are going right, they're going to tell you about it. If things are not going right, they're going to tell you about it. And as a school district and as a school board, and for myself, I've really tried to make sure that I listen to all of those things. And I want to continue to do that because we don't know where we're not doing well unless we hear about it. So thank you for your time. Vote for John. I'll stick around afterwards for more questions.
April Farrell, your 60-second wrap up.
All right. This is what I do. It's what I've devoted my life to, is service to Columbia Public Schools. When I ran last time, I had a decision to make, and that was quit my job or run for school board, because city ordinance prevents city employees from working for them if they're going to run for public office. So I made the decision to quit my job, and this is what I do. It is incredible amount of hours. It is can be frustrating. It can't, government does not move quickly, and definitely doesn't move as quick as I would like it to. And I absolutely love every minute of it. I am very honored to serve with a incredibly diverse board who doesn't always agree with each other. But respects everyone's view, and I think we're making great progress on things in the district. Again, not quick enough, because nothing moves quickly, but I think we're making strides to the right direction. I'm very excited about the future, and so I hope you vote April in April.
So this concludes the school board portion of our forum tonight. You'll have an opportunity to vote for, I'll say up to three. You don't have to vote for three. You can vote for up to three of these. And we appreciate their time tonight and thank you for what you're putting up with during this campaign season, and best of luck if you go down the stretch. We're gonna take a 2-minute break and we'll come back and have the candidates. Forum is for the Columbia City Council. That one contested race of the council this year, that's for the seat in Ward 5. Columbia has 7 members of the city council, 6 are representatives of wards, and 1 is the mayor. Each council member serves a 3-year staggered term. Each year, there are 2 ward seats up for election, and every 3rd year, the mayor is up for election. This year, it's Ward 1 and 5 that are up for election. Only Ward 5 has a contested race. Candidates for Ward 5 are Don Waterman and Christina Hartman. They will have a time for a 2-minute opening statement like we just had with the school board. And then we will have questions. We have note cards for your questions again. And also invite those of you who are participating through Zoom to put your questions in the chat section, and the league members will monitor those and hand those up front. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions when we get there. And then following the questions, the candidates will present 1-minute closing statements. Opening statements will be presented in ballot order. So Don Waterman, you're on the clock for your 2-minute opening statement. Welcome.
All right, thank you, David. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight. Thank you, David, for moderating. I'm running for re-election simply because unfinished business. When I ran the first time, my campaign was fully staffing the police department, fire department, infrastructure, and growing economic development, because I think those are 3 things that we really need to help Columbia thrive and keep being and become an even better city. So the public safety issue, we've gone from approximately 40 officers, 40 vacancies down to
At one time it was 14, but I've attended a couple of retirements over the last week, week and a half, so say 16, 17. We have a class starting our own academy, either the 31st or the first week of April. I think there's 9 or 10 in that class. So we're making progress there. Infrastructure, you continue to see development, but then you also see, projects that are going on that, in the town. But there's a couple of others that, well, quite frankly, got pushed to the side, if you will. Both of them affect the Fifth Ward. One is the water tower. Unfortunately, I can't say we've had any progress on that. The other one is the transmission line. And the question there is, where do we put it? We got a presentation on where it needs to go. Down Scott of Water School. It's quickest, it's gonna be the most cost-effective way to do it. And that's the way I'm gonna support putting it. So, yeah, well, open to your questions, so.
Thank you, Don Waterman. Now Christina Hartman, we welcome you. Glad you're here, and you've got 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. I really appreciate getting to share my story with you and why you should vote for me on April 7th. I came to Columbia about 7 years ago, and this was at a time when I was thinking about where do I want to raise my children. My oldest was about to go into elementary school, and I was like, what area in Missouri do I want to live? Because I knew we weren't moving out of Missouri. We got too many roots here. So I started looking at Columbia, and I had been in Columbia for various reasons, for work and for community events. And I started thinking about how great everyone was here. Like everybody liked to connect. There was great festivals. There was good schools. There was very creative people, great art district. And I was like, couldn't think of a better place than Columbia for mid-Missouri. And once I got here, I started doing volunteer work and digging into different opportunities, tons of nonprofits here. So anybody can volunteer for practically anything in Columbia. And after a few years of that, been here 7 years. So I started thinking about how do I make an impact at the next level? And for me, that was city council. I knew that I wanted to be a part of that. I go to the most of the city council meetings, and when I'm there, I'm like, I think I could do this. I think I could be somebody that brings a different perspective to the board, a strong voice, and I knew that for me, that was where I wanted to go. I started seeing that there were issues in Columbia, specifically in Ward 5. These issues, like the water tower, the transmission lines, definitely impacted our city overall. And so I wanted to be able to make a difference in that, in housing availability and also job opportunities right here in Columbia.
All right, thank you. We have some questions from the League of Women Voters, and then also at least one that has been brought forward from one of the audience members. Again, just a reminder, if you are participating via Zoom, get your questions in. We know that there are several people on Zoom tonight, and if you have a question, make sure you get it in fairly early so that we can have that for our candidates. And then also, if you're here and you find an index card nearby and have a question, write on that and catch the attention of one of us, and we'll also submit that for their candidates. Let's start with a question from the League of Women Voters, and Don Waterman, you're first on this. As you have campaigned in Ward 5, what issue concerns your neighbors most, and how will you address it?
I think one of the major issues, again, there's a lot of development that's going on. We've got 2 schools down on Sinclair Road. One's open. I think the other one's scheduled to open this fall. Across the street, we've got development that's going on. So Sinclair is going to need to be addressed as far as improvement, and that's on the schedule. It was in the recently approved or reapproved capital improvement sales tax. Public safety is an issue, not just in Ward 5, but also in the city. But that's, as I said, working to increase the police staffing. One of the things that, we're going to be discussing in that regard is the, public safety sales tax. That would bring in roughly $30 million, which we need. Chief Schluty has said she needs anywhere from 50 to 60 more officers, given the way Columbia has grown. Okay, time up.
All right, Christina Hartman, same question to you. As you have campaigned in the ward, what issue concerns your neighbors most and how will you address it?
So I think a lot of the issues do fall into the infrastructure, into available housing. So not just affordable, but available housing, housing that fits everyone in various lifestyles. So those new homeowners, those people that want to rent, families that are growing, all these different types of homes. And we need to look at how that infrastructure is built around those homes so we can have approvals of those development areas. We also want to look at the type of housing in terms of multi-purpose or multi-living style homes and what codes are around that. I also hear a lot of questions around transportation. So specifically in the southwest side of the Ward 5, there's not a lot of transportation, public transportation, and it's hard to get to a lot of the stores and shops as well.
Next question, also from the league, and this will go to Christina Hartman first. How will you communicate with your Ward 5 constituents?
That's a great question. So I think, a lot of people use different communication channels. So we also, as council members, need to leverage those communication channels. So things like in-person sessions. So right there in Ward 5, we need to have a place that we can meet regularly and talk about the issues. We also need to be able to accommodate electronic, because not everybody has time for a face-to-face convo. And if you have an issue with that you're not getting fixed. So that could be email or even social media, I think is an acceptable way to communicate with us. So just leveraging all the various channels that have been created for us so that we can communicate together and move forward together.
Thank you. Don Waterman, same question. How will you communicate with your Ward 5 constituents?
Couple of things that we do, as Christina said, we've got, our emails, and I hear from constituents. Generally, it's, hey, I need help with X, Y, or Z. The other one, we have a phone that's the city provides us, so phone calls, text messages, I get those. A couple of other things that we're also doing, that the city has started, is that at least every 6 months, we have what they call Let's Talk Local, where we have a given topic that we're going to be discussing. And then on top of that, it's open, and once we're done with that, then it's open for questions. So, when you hear of those, in fact, I think the next one for the 5th Ward, I believe is the 26th. So next week, and I'll have it's the 26th. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be, but I can't recall off the top of my head. So I'm available. Other than that, I don't have regularly scheduled hours like some council members do.
We'll go to the next question, and this will go to Don Waterman first. How will you ensure follow through of the city council decisions by the city manager of those decisions?
One of the things that we've asked, and they should, is we now get a report back. If we ask for information, there's a report that says, where they are on that request. That is a question, that has come up, is how do we monitor and make sure that things are being followed through on. I think that maybe early on in my term, there was some questions that would come up and then seem to kind of fade away. So we're trying to make sure that those are being tracked so that we can make sure that we do get a response. A lot of things that you may see that we've done as far as communication goes, and that was a big complaint, is the various town halls, city summit, community summit. that we have, provide some more visibility and transparency.
Thank you. Christina Hartman, same question. How will you ensure follow through of the city council decisions by the city manager of those decisions?
Yeah, so my background is in technology, and part of that background includes a project management professional certificate. And this means that I am trained in managing large scale projects. And so I would want to leverage and make sure that our teams, whether it be between the city council and every, all the whole umbrella there, are using good project management tools that allow them to track and properly follow up on those issues. And I would also want to ensure that I'm going back and looking at my own track record. So if I campaigned on, say, infrastructure, that I'm making sure that I'm following through and that those things are being addressed at the city council. And then also looking at what I've approved and making sure that those things are being pushed. So if I'm making promises, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to track those and I'm going to make sure that they're followed up on.
We're going to go to Christina Hartman for the first answer on this one. And we've actually got two that were thinking the same line of thought. And this has already been mentioned in a previous question, but let's go into it a little bit deeper. What is your position on the proposed 1% city sales tax? Now, that is a discussion that has started on a 1% increase in city sales tax for public safety purposes, if I'm understanding this right. And I believe that that is what that is for. And Christina Hartman, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my understanding is that the 1% public safety tax is to ensure pensions are shored up for our police officers. And we do know that the officers are working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week. That's a lot. That's a lot for any employee. And so we need to make sure that we're being fair about that. But we also need to make sure that we're utilizing the money that we say that we're going to utilize in a way that we say that we're going to utilize it. So that means evaluating the processes that we have, making sure that we're highly efficient, because there are ways to identify and track project and process efficiencies before going back to the voter and asking them to for additional tax hikes. We have several things that are coming out. We have water rate increases in 2027 plan. We have increased property tax for the water treatment annexation. We have a ton of additional things that are coming out over time, and we have to really be responsible in how we think about approaching those things for our citizens.
Don Waterman, the question to you, what is your position on the proposed 1% city sales tax?
I think, as I said earlier, I'm in favor of it. To Christina's point, yes, right now the police officers are working, 12-hour shifts. It doesn't give them time, or if they have to do training, they have to come in on their off time. We do need to grow our police force. Again, Chief Sluty said she needs 50 to 60 more officers. Chief Schaefer with the fire department would like to add 40 firefighters. That would give them 3 per shift per truck. The other things that go along with that, yes, it will help with pensions for police and fire. But there's also some needs for infrastructure. There's 3 fire stations that need to be rebuilt. We're going to need 2 additional fire stations as Columbia grows. So there's a lot that goes into it. What we asked for on our last presentation, when they bring it back to us as we go through this discussion, was give us a timeline of specifically what projects you want to do from a capital standpoint, and the timeline that you would have for that. So again, it is going to be dedicated to public safety. And again, just like with the capital improvement sales tax, there was a place on the website that showed all the projects that were going to be covered under that, and the timelines for them. And we want the same thing for this.
Just a offhand, same thing with Parks and Rec. When they get a dedicated sales tax, they do the same thing. They say, here's what we would do with that money. Another question from the audience, and Don Waterman, you're first on this. Tell us how you would handle a situation if a tech company tried to build a data center in our community.
It's ironic that just last Monday, under first read is I'm not sure whether it's a resolution. Anyway, and it will be coming up for the next council discussion. We are actually going to put a formal definition for data center into our Unified Development Code. I know data centers tend to be a bit of a trigger word for a lot of people. There are concerns. They do consume a lot of resources, electric, water, and there's a question about, the jobs that they do actually provide. On the flip side, they're necessary with the way technology is growing. So I guess to answer the question, we would be looking at it from a resource consumption standpoint. Do we have the resources or not? And just what would it bring to the community? But like I said, we're going to formally define it. I believe that'll be at the next council meeting, April 6th. And then again, just like I weigh every other economic decision, is it good for Columbia or not? And can we do it?
Christina Hartman, same to you. Tell us how you would handle a situation if a tech company tried to build a data center in our community.
Yeah. So I appreciate the council's approach to defining what a data center is. I do think that we need to evaluate each of these data centers in the infrastructure that needs to be supported in order to make a data center viable. A lot of these contracts are 12-year contracts, and when we think about the infrastructure that we need in order to support that, we think about the water consumption and the electricity that's needed to maintain that. When we look at that level of infrastructure, that means we have a potential need to build additional infrastructure that would outlast that 12-year contract for a very long time. So in order to really evaluate that, I would have to see the contract and make sure that there are fair contracts for our city, but also making sure that the sustainable, that we're looking at it from an environmentally sustainable approach and fiscal responsible approach.
All right, Christina Hartman, you're first on this one. At the last city council meeting, members passed a stipend increase. May 1st, 2029, the mayor's stipend will be $11,494. A council member stipend will be $7,663. What are your thoughts about giving council members and the mayor a salary equal to a good full-time or part-time job?
I think that type of salary would benefit people that maybe wouldn't necessarily have the ability, such as myself, to do this at the rate that it's currently at. So that to me would open up opportunity for other people to have a voice on the council and create additional diversity on the council.
Don Waterman, same question to you. What are your thoughts about giving council members and the mayor a salary equal to a good full-time or part-time job?
Well, I am certainly open to the discussion, and frankly, I think that would be a good idea. One of the issues or one of the challenges of becoming a council member is if you're working full-time, then you're going to be juggling your time, quite frankly. And for the first year I was on council, I was doing that. I worked full-time and then attended the council business. I retired from full-time work in May of 2024, so I could devote more time to city council. I think making it a salaried position would open it up to more individuals. We recently actually had a recall election because one of the council members took a full-time job to support his family. That raised some concerns among the community, and individuals recalled. So it would open that up to where I think we would have more people. Right now, it's either people that can afford be in a position to where they don't have to work, they juggle a full-time job, or retirees.
Don Waterman, you're first on this one. Define the role of a city council member as you see it.
Formally, city council sets a policy, and then with our form of government, the city manager executes the policy that we establish. Kind of goes back to your earlier question about how do we follow up on decisions. And essentially, that's how I see our role. I mean, we get the information, we look at all the information we can, we do our research, we make the best decisions that we can based on the information that we can obtain regarding whatever it is. But again, formally, in our form of government, city council sets the policies and the city manager executes it. And that's where I see my role.
Christina Hartman, do you define the role of a city council member as you see it?
So to me, a city council member is somebody that listens to their residents that they're entrusted to listen to. Making sure that when policies come to the city council, that it reflects accurately the values of them and their constituents. And I think that that means, also means following through and making sure that those policies and procedures align so that it's supporting the city in the way that we originally intended. I think that means a lot of communication, a lot of process and policy review. And I think that means ensuring that you give a fair voice to all of your residents.
Christina Hartman, question for you. What economic growth could happen in Ward 5?
So we do see like a cluster in Ward 5 of where there are shops. We see restaurants, we see some hair, salons, things like that. I would like to see some things outside of retail being developed in Ward 5. I also see that there's a lack of public indoor public spaces. It's very hard to find event venues in that area. I also think that we need to consider that when we're doing our housing development too, of what could pair well with the housing in that area and the culture that has been cultivated in Ward 5.
Don Waterman, what economic growth could happen in Ward 5?
I think there's a number of different things that could happen. Right now, there seems to be two as far as business areas, and that is Providence and Nifong. We've got there's a biscuit company that's coming in, used to be the old Fuzzy's Taco, so that's coming in. And then the other one is down at the Varder School in Scott. We've got Addison's, we've got Trail Stop now. There's I think Jose Jalapenos, and then there's some other businesses that have gone in there. There's an aquatic center that's going in next to Addison's. So there's those kinds of things, from an economic standpoint, are what we, continue to see that kind of growth and development to help with the economic area and help the Fifth Ward economically. The Fifth Ward is primarily residential, I will say that.
And that leads me to another question, and Don Waterman, you'll be first on this one. How could affordable housing occur in Ward 5?
That's going to be the challenge, not just in Ward 5, but the city. And basically what it's going to come down to is finding, working with the developers, as plans come forward for development, housing developments, working with them to build. And that's the challenge, is how will they build it? What can the city do to make it more affordable? Because that's what it comes down to. It's the costs that go into building that gets passed on to the buyer, or the renter. So that's part of the housing study that we're looking at that affects the entire city, not just Ward 5. Is how can we make this, streamline the process, make it more cost efficient? One option may be subsidies, but again, we're already under a tight budget, so subsidies is not something that is going to be easily attainable. So there's a number of challenges to it. It's not an easy answer to it.
And Christina Hartman, same question for you. How could affordable housing occur in Ward 5?
So I think there's a lot of sprawl that's happening in Ward 5. We've annexed out toward McBlain. And so there's a lot of land out there in Ward 5 as well. But we should consider, in order to better and have more efficient infrastructure, is how do we find spaces that have already been developed and redevelop in those areas in a way that fits the residents' lifestyles. So as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of different lifestyles that reasons people have a home and how big they want that home. So not everybody needs a house that's, 2,000 square feet. So how do we build housing in Ward 5 that accommodates the different lifestyles, along with bringing in that economic pool so that we can also support some of the additional funding that might be needed in order to, in the terms of subsidies or helping people get into homes.
I'm gonna squeeze in one more question. You don't have to take 60 seconds, and this is built on the question that I also asked school board candidates, but I kind of like seeing them come up with their answers. It shows some of their personality. Christina Hartman, you're first. The last event I attended that made me feel good about Columbia was?
Well, I attended a housing and commission thing, which maybe doesn't sound that exciting, but to me, it was nice being able to see everyone that was a part of that board and commission getting excited about how do they find that affordable housing and how do they, make it accessible, which I kind of want to do a plug. But boards and commissions, there's vacancies. April 3rd is the closure for that. So if you're watching and you're not on a board, maybe that's a good way to get involved. All right, go ahead.
Don Waterman, the last event I attended that made me feel good about Columbia was?
Oh, a number of things. One was the Partners in Education breakfast with Columbia Public Schools and watching a number of the partners get recognized. Another one was just last Saturday, our community summit. We had a very good turnout there, and just to see the interaction, different departments represented, the people, community was able to cast their votes on what they thought was important. I thought there were a lot of good questions. So again, and one of the other, going back a little bit further, was the last police academy graduation I went to. They were all local and they've committed to serving Columbia. So I think just all those together, a number of things. So, but the most recent would be the Partners in Education and the Community Summit.
Thank you both. We're gonna have closing statements now. We'll go in reverse order as what we did in the opening statements, and these are for 60 seconds. So Christina Hartman, your final statement.
All right, well, thank you everyone for coming out and staying late, because, 7:30, it's kind of late, but so I appreciate everyone coming out. I definitely want to make an impact in Columbia, and so for me, that means city council, and that means being somebody that listens to the residents, trying to push forward the projects that we committed to, making sure that when we pass bond measures, that those projects get started and get pushed through. And I just think it's also a good opportunity because my kids are loving the experience. And so for me, it's kind of cool to see me in a different light. So, yeah.
Thank you. Don Waterman, your final 60-second comment.
Again, thank you for hosting tonight. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, David, for moderating. Lots of very good questions. And I appreciate all of those. As I said, I'm running for re-election. There's some unfinished business that as far as infrastructure, public safety, that we started on, and I want to see those through. So I want to try and finish that job. One of the things that at least the first couple of years I was on council was a learning experience. So now I've got some of that just learning how everything worked. It's easy when you're on the outside to campaign and say, we need to fix this, 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 and this. And then you get on council and realize that, there's a lot of other things that feed into it. I mentioned the community summit, there had a kids center and they had a juggler. I suggested to DeCarlo, we might want to hire him for 30 seconds when we start talking about the budget. So, because that's kind of what it goes into. So there's a lot there. I bring the experience, and just asking for your vote on April 7th.
Thank you both. And I'm going to ask that you all vacate the front, and Valerie Carroll, start your way up here, because we're not going to take a break in between these things. And what I'm about to say makes it sound like this forum is over. But we've got one more part to this, and that is going to be a conversation with the First Ward City Council person who is running unopposed. So thank you, Christine Hartman and Don Waterman, for running for the Fifth Ward seat, and also for being here tonight. We do very much appreciate that. And this is kind of a conclusion of the forum part. Let me say the forum has been recorded. It will be posted on the league and library's websites. Thanks to Lauren Williams again and her tech crew and KOPN for broadcasting the forum. The league has prepared a voter guide for the April 7th election for candidates and information on voting. The guide is available on the league website at LWV-CBC.org. And there will be some printed copies available in the library very soon. No excuse absentee voting will be available from March 24th until April 6th at the Boone County Clerk's office, but you do need a photo ID and we encourage you to vote. Valerie Carroll, come on up front. So that, I mean, I really appreciate the league letting me be part of this. And also I do appreciate and respect the league's rules. And they have very good rules about the forums where you have to ask the same question, worded the same way, which I used to not do in the past, but I do now for all of the candidates. And then if there is a seat that is running unopposed, they're very kind to give us an opportunity to talk for a few moments. And this is kind of not part of the forum formally. So deal with it. So Valerie Carroll is here and I get to sit down for this. So we're going to talk for about 10 minutes. It's kind of like an interview that you would do on the radio if you had a guest. And I don't know how to do that, so that's just gonna be first for me. I do appreciate you being on the council. What are your thoughts about running unopposed? Personally, I think we need more participation.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, actually. I mean, it's great for me. It feels good. It makes me think that people generally supported me, but I've also seen a history of unopposed elections recently in Ward 1. I ran unopposed the first time. And I think that the economics of Ward 1 and serving on city council and the time commitment, and yeah, I think that makes it really hard for a lot of people to run for council. I think a lot of people, are discouraged to run for those reasons. And I do feel that there's things that we could do to encourage people to run. I noticed that Ward 1 and Ward 3 have both been unopposed recently. And that's pretty significant.
Your thoughts about a salary? I mean, we just had two candidates and they say they understand a salary might appeal to some. First of all, do you have a job outside of city council?
Not right now.
Not right now,
I
so-
did leave my job to commit to city council.
And it's a commitment.
It is a commitment. You know, it's a weird situation to talk about salary as a city council member. I think it would be healthy for the city as a whole. I'm not sure if that looks like a full-time job salary or not. But I do think that it discouraged people from running, and I think our city would be healthier if we had more contested seats. I also think that the city would benefit from people who can give it their full-time undivided attention. And if we're not providing a salary, then people aren't able to give it a full-time job. So you know, I think the city has to look hard at what its priorities are as we're growing in population and people need more representation and want more interaction with their officials. Then I think that's something the city should consider. I heard at a recent forum that RMF did from a speaker who came in from Municipal League. I forget,
Yes.
the,
National Civic League.
thanks.
And RMF Race Matters, friends.
Yes,
Yes.
so they recommend that cities with the same kind of charter as us review their charter every 5 years. And we have review processes for most of our strategic planning. Our charter is 20 years old. And I don't know that any document has a 20-year shelf life. I think we ought to start building in review processes that are transparent and accessible to the general population to decide on how you want our city government to act and how you want it to be shaped.
Are you instigating conversations about that? Are those existing right now outside of the public eyes? With council or staff?
I am not gonna instigate that. I don't think that's an appropriate role for a sitting council member. Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. If I remember right, were you on planning and zoning?
I served 2 terms on planning and zoning.
Tell me about that, what that process was like. And my follow-up question is going to be, after serving on planning and zoning, you get a particular, that is an important board. And after you've got that perspective, how do you feel about that now looking at it from a council position at planning and zoning?
Thanks. I love it. I think it was great experience. I'm really passionate about land use issues. I'm really passionate about housing, affordability and availability. And the time that I spent on planning and zoning really helped me prepare for the legal landscape surrounding land use issues, for the tools that we have to work on some of these subjects that are kind of rising to the forefront of public discourse, as well as, you know, it fluctuates a bit, but at one point, planning items made up like 70% of our agendas, because we constantly have applications for development, for rezoning, for conditional approvals. And so having done the in-depth study and the in-depth work on that, I think provided me a pretty good education on what council would be like, what it would look like, and what public engagement could and should look like. What it looks like to give people room to speak, and to make sure information is made available before decisions are made.
When you were on planning and zoning, were you ever frustrated by the council?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know that I would have run for council if I hadn't been frustrated by the council. You know, every once in a while, there's a decision that's flipped, and sometimes an entirely different group of people shows up for the public meeting, the public hearing at council, then shows up for the public hearing at planning and zoning.
That's an interesting observation, because that might explain why certain decisions are made a certain way. I could understand, let me guess, and you tell me whether I'm off on this or not. At planning and zoning, I think developers are paying attention to what's happening there, and so they're very attuned to that. And at city council, it's publicized a little bit differently, and different group shows up there.
I've seen that go both ways.
Okay,
Yeah, I've seen it go where a huge group showed up at the hearing and then got a vote in their favor at planning and zoning and thought it was over, that was done. Either they didn't realize that there was another meeting, or they thought surely with this recommendation, it's not going to flip, and people didn't show up for the council meeting. And, you know, I think that says something about like the public burden on having a lot of meetings that go late into the evening. I think it also says a lot about listening to our boards and our commissions, because if we go back and we review the video, if we look at the minutes, we can pick up on a broader scope, and we can hear the why behind recommendations. I think that's incredibly important for city council members.
quick shots here. What's the best part of being a council person?
I don't know. I like that I can advocate for my neighbors. There are a lot of things that I felt powerless about before I started getting involved in city government. And it's not about the power, but it's about the ability to show up, make sure people's voices are heard, and try to change things for the better.
What's the hardest part?
I had an audience prompt here, changing things for the better. You know, this is similar to what I heard from school board, actually. It's the time. public work, city governments, we move really slow. And sometimes that's painful. And everyone wants change. Nobody did this because they wanted status quo. And some of the things that I care about, you know, we're starting to see movement on, we're starting to see improvement, but it takes a very long time, especially with infrastructure.
We had the two candidates for Ward 5 up here a while ago, and they were talking about their ward as well as the whole city. I'm curious as to how you would compare and contrast Ward 1 with Ward 5.
Yeah, Ward 1 is much smaller and more dense. It's got a really active and really involved population. Yeah, I liked how John Lyman said that Columbia is the tell me city in the show me state. Ward 1 is that tell me group. I think we're the loudest and the spiciest. I don't know. I love it. I love it that way. I don't want to guess what people think. I want to hear and I want to engage and I want to talk to them often. I also think that we have some big differences in the age of investment, in the fabric of the city, in the investments in public infrastructure. And we do have a lot of investments, particularly in stormwater lately. But I also think that we're catching up. We have much older road systems. We have sidewalks that weren't required to be built back in the 30s, 50s until our recent code. And so that connectivity is an issue. Yeah, I
So-
feel like my job is to keep pushing for items in the CIP and for funding of things like sidewalk master plan.
I'm curious because you're talking about how engaged Ward 1 is and how the voices are out there. And yet a little while ago, we just talked about how nobody wants to run for the position. You've run unopposed.
Yeah,
So that seems almost contradictory.
I'm glad that you say it that way. It's funny because right after I became council person, somebody told me that they thought that there wasn't much interest in running for council because Ward 1 is so loud and engaged and that it intimidated people. I don't think that's true. I think that same group of people that's loud and engaged, those are usually the people who run for positions like this. That's exactly the type of engaged population that would run for the role that I'm in right now. So I still think that there are other issues that are causing people to not be able to run.
We're gonna have to wrap this up in a bit. I appreciate the fact that you were here from the beginning tonight and you've been here for the whole thing, so thank you. I want to ask you a couple more things, though. I saw this from Local Motion. They sent something out from their newsletter, and they talked about how you and another council person, and that's gonna be, who else is going to, oh, Jackie Sample, going to be with you, with a Smart Growth America's Champions Institute, which has its goal to talk about complete streets, active transportation networks, downtown revitalization, and healthy communities. And mentioned in that release something about this is a several month process. What are your hopes for that? What are you looking forward to in this?
I love this. I feel so honored to do it. We're in a group with municipal leaders throughout the US, people from much larger cities than ours and people from cities smaller than ours. What I like about it is that from this, we meet every other week and we have coaching on, I guess, trends in infrastructure, especially non-motorized infrastructure planning. And from this work, the goal is to develop an action plan that we can implement in our own city. I love that we have not one, but two council members who are accepted in this and who get that training. I think that we can really positively influence the outcome. for Columbia, and I think we're at the right time. We're renewing our complete streets policy and our Vision Zero policy at the same time. It's a good time to be working on
Now, will
this.
those be remote meetings or are you gonna travel somewhere? I don't know what the process.
They're remote
Okay, I
meetings, yeah.
thought so. Well, we'll let you go in a second, but finish this thought, and it's not the same one I've asked. I see blank in the city's future. What do you see?
Oh, man, one thing. I think I'm gonna say growth. The city has been growing really dramatically. And we are at a point where we are not a small town anymore. We are the fourth largest city in the state. And we need to plan to keep up with that growth. Make sure that we are looking long-term in terms of infrastructure and housing, and public safety.
Valerie Carroll is gonna be on the ballot. If you live in the first ward, she'll be unopposed. We do appreciate you participating in this and wish you luck as you continue to serve on the city council. We've got 11 minutes before they lock us in the library overnight. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate your participation.
Always wanted to do a library lock-in. Thank you. Yeah.